Well, what do we have here? Welcome to the very first episode of Gem Talk with me, Amthyst, where I share my thoughts with you on things going on in the world that we live in. Thank you for joining me. Okay, today we're going to talk about Quiet on Set, which is this docuseries that just came out recently. In their past couple of episodes, they've been talking about Nickelodeon and all of the Dan Schneider allegations. This is a very hot topic right now, as most of us that are in the age group that I'm in, 1995 born, so I'll be turning 29 this year. We grew up watching a lot of the shows that were on television that Dan Schneider produced and created. Including myself in that. Some of the shows that were part of this that he created were there's more I'm sure, but these are just the main ones that I watched, are The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, iCarly, Victorious, and Zoe 101. I'm almost 100, and Sam and Cat. Can't forget Sam and Cat. So first off, let's start with The Amanda Show and the unfortunate downfall of Amanda Bynes. Most of us are aware that she looks, bless her heart, but she looks fucking insane right now. Homegirl got the heart face tattoo. Her face looks like a moldy orange. Her hair looks like it's falling out. She's got, caked on thick-ass eyeliner. I feel bad for her, because clearly she's going through a mental crisis. Clearly something happened to her to completely change her whole physical appearance. They say that mental disorders are all in your mind, but I'm a really strong advocate and believer that they can affect your physical appearance and your physical abilities as well. Now, from what I've gathered, Dan Schneider played a really huge role in, uplifting Amanda Bynes and kind of jump-starting her career. She was on The Amanda Show. He really vibed with her, I guess, and gave her her own skit comedy show called The Amanda Show. I loved that show. Let me tell you how I wanted to be Amanda Bynes so bad. But now reflecting back, I'm realizing how much adult content was really on that show and how it really wasn't for a kid my age to be watching. It's something maybe that, most of the jokes aren't really funny nowadays, for the society that we live in, but I feel like I should have been a lot older in order to watch that. And it's also supposed to be a kid's show, so I don't know why they made it so inappropriate. I don't really want to spend too much time talking about Amanda because this has been something that we've already all been aware of for a really long time. I'd like to jump a little bit sooner to some more of the recent stuff that came to light. So just a little background. Dan Schneider is a former producer that worked for Nickelodeon in the late 90s to mid 2000s, and he created and produced most of the hit Nickelodeon shows that we know today. They're definitely the ones that I watch the most, for sure. One of the more recent allegations that's come to light underneath of Dan Schneider's nose was Drake Bell coming forward and speaking about his sexual assault and his experiences with as far as I know, I believe he's a dialogue coach, an acting coach that was a part of the show, and his name was Brian Peck, apparently, oddly enough, no relation to Josh Peck. And he apparently had a whole lawsuit and everything about a sexual assault that took place on set. And at the time, this is apparently over 10 years ago, supposedly, he had a whole lawsuit, but because of his status, he didn't want to have his career ruined, so he identified himself as John Doe. But now he has come forward on this docuseries Quiet on Set to tell his story for the very first time, apparently. It's just so foul, that all of this kind of stuff goes on kids shows, because when you view it on TV, you don't pick up on any of that. I didn't pick up on any of that. I thought that all these child star actors and actresses were the shit, dude. I wanted to be one so bad. That's the life that I wanted to live. I had even been like scouted and recruited like as a kid. Like I had like people coming up to me in the mall and handing me brochures and stuff. Like I've had many people tell me that I'm very talented and funny and I make it as an actress, but boy am I glad that I didn't go that route when I was younger, because who knows what would have happened to me if I would have been a part of one of these shows. Maybe something would have happened to me and it would have ruined my life. Who knows where I would be. So one thing that I think is really crazy is that Josh is defending Drake Bell's abuser. I mean, as far as I know, I don't really think that they ever really got along, but Josh is defending Dan Schneider and Brian Peck when there's countless people that have come forward with allegations against these people. Brian Peck even got arrested for being a child predator and has to register as a sex offender. And Josh is trying to support him versus his co-star on the show that he was with. Like, you didn't pick up on any of that was going on, or like, were you just purposely oblivious because you didn't want it to ruin your career and your opportunities that could come up? But I mean, I don't really see him in very many things, movies or anything like that. So, I mean, I guess maybe your silence didn't really help you out as much as you thought it would. So, moving on to the show that I probably watched the most on Nick, that was created by Dan Schneider, iCarly. I'm also not going in order of the times that the shows were filmed or anything. I'm just going down the list. Kind of because I'd saved the craziest ones to talk about last. So clearly, obviously, if you watched iCarly, you can really visibly tell that Dan Schneider has a foot fetish, because he clearly really loves Miranda Cosgrove and Jeanette McCurdy's feet, because he's constantly making them show their feet. And like, there's like episodes that are just like solely based around like feet related things. Like, they're always mentioning Carly's feet and Sam's feet, and like there's always somebody like rubbing one of their feet, or like, it's just too much. It's really obvious, and it's honestly really degrading, I think, now looking back and understanding that that's what was going on. Because before, I just thought it was funny. I was a kid, I didn't pick up on any of that. I had no clue about that. I was incredibly innocent. I did not think anything of it. I just thought that they thought that the feet stuff was funny, I guess. I don't know. But now, reflecting back on that, circling back as an adult, and I'm fully aware of feet fetishes and how it is kind of gross, in my opinion. Like, I don't knock whatever you like. You can like what you like, as long as it's not little kids, because that's fucking gross. Or animals. I also think the whole fur thing is weird. But anyways, we're getting sidetracked. So, foot fetish gone mad. This is also, I mean, there's always been a lot of sexual innuendos in a lot of Dan Schneider's work, but I think that this is the show where I personally started to notice it, because when I was watching iCarly, I wasn't like in my single digits. I was probably like 11, 12, 13 watching that show, maybe even 14. So I kind of knew about sexual innuendos. I think I was starting to become old enough to understand what those meant and what those jokes were. And it didn't make me uncomfortable, because I didn't think that was supposed to make me feel uncomfortable. You know, I grew up in a really weird time where TV really transitioned into becoming, I mean, I can't speak to how it was before I was born, but in my opinion, it seems like it became a lot more subliminal, and a lot of things had hidden meanings behind them. Like, you know, even something as simple as like a poster in the background of a shot having something that could be mildly inappropriate if you paid attention to it. Just subtle things like that. Subliminally, I feel like my generation was made to feel like sexualization was normal. I know that they obviously did that in the past, but I really genuinely feel like in my generation, their approach to it was subliminal, and therefore we were like almost like MK Ultra'd into believing that sexualization was like normal, it's fine. So to see it like on a kid's show wouldn't be anything abnormal, because it's something that we're used to. Like, not to mention, like, I mean, maybe I just wasn't watching the right stuff when I was growing up, but sexualization in music videos, when music videos started to become super popular on MTV, and like MTV had the whole jams thing, and there was just lots of ass shaking, you know, not that I'm against it. Who doesn't like to see some nice ass shaking? But growing up as a kid and seeing that, and like, you know, the music that I liked had a lot of sexual innuendos in it because they weren't making the music for kids like me. They were making it for adults. But because we had access to all the stuff growing up, because as I was growing up, the world was changing as far as technology goes, and it was getting easier to access things that we should not have had access to, in my opinion. I think that it really shaped us as a generation like a lot differently if we wouldn't have had access to all the stuff that we did. There is some crazy videos that used to be on YouTube, and I know my generation knows what I'm talking about. We saw some crazy stuff. The kids nowadays think that they have access to... No, bro, you weren't on 4chan back in the day. I don't want to hear it. There was a lot of crazy stuff that has been since taken down and you can't find it anywhere. We're not going to go there, though. So, you know, when I was watching iCarly and seeing these sexual innuendos, it was super normal to me. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think anything was problematic. I just thought it was... I honestly found humor in it, so I just laughed along. But, you know, after hearing a little bit of Jeanette McCurdy's book and her talking about her experience on iCarly and what was going on in her personal life with her mother and how she had an eating disorder and, you know, she was being abused both by her mother as well as Dan Schneider and other people on set. Multiple people that have worked with Dan Schneider have said that he created hostile work environments, whether it be misogynistic, verbally abusive, sexually abusive. Like, he just sucked, and he's ugly as fuck, I like to add. Yeah, so like after watching iCarly and now and going like reflecting back and watching it now, I can't even watch it, dude. It's just like soft foot fetish porn basically, like the entire time. It's just Carly with her feet out. Next second, Sam's got a fucking butter sock and she's smacking somebody. Or, like, they're pouring some weird liquid onto Carly's toes. Like, I don't know. There's always something fucking unnecessarily weird going on. And it's just not the same. I was watching this YouTuber who goes by Deep Dive. Shout out Deep Dive. About, you know, this topic. And they said that they came across a blind take, I think is what they called it. So something that somebody has submitted blindly, whether it be from like one of like the actresses or something that's on set, or, you know, a producer working on the show. Basically, it is an anonymous tip or anonymous story that has come out that is not attached to anybody in particular, but it could be true, it could be not. That's why it's called a blind take. But he saw this blind take. This is kind of like jumping forward a little bit into the next show that we're going to talk about at the same time, that kind of insinuated like it was written by Victoria Justice, who was supposed to be the star of Victorious, another one of Dan Schneider's shows, stating that Dan Schneider had attempted to sleep with Victoria Justice, and she turned him down. Good for you, girl, because that bro he's nasty. And after that, she started getting less screen time. She started getting less dialogue on Victorious. You know, there was rumors being spread about her behind her back to other people so that she wouldn't be getting any kind of opportunities elsewhere. And it kind of just ruined her career, the fact that she didn't want to sleep with Dan Schneider and she turned him down. Now, she was insinuating that that's not the case for everybody. And that Dan Schneider himself even said that he had a lot of other young actresses that were keeping him busy, and that was his response to her rejection. That it seemed like Miranda Cosgrove from iCarly was one of those actresses, and that she had slept with him in an attempt to further her career in music, but it didn't work because homegirl can't sing, and her music sucked. I actually didn't even know that she made music until I looked it up today after I watched this video, and wow, that shit is bad. As most young teen star pop is, but like, no, girl. You just wasted your time and opened up your Uchi for someone you shouldn't have. Because I don't even really feel like she does anything nowadays, to be honest. Like, I haven't really, like, what does Miranda Cosgrove do? Wait, didn't she actually have some songs that were good? I don't know. It doesn't matter because she's not a fucking pop star like the other actress I'm about to name. Now, this one's really controversial because she is one of the top pop artists in the world. I think I saw that she's number 4 in the world and most streamed artist in Spotify. And that's Ariana Grande. That hurts so hard to say that because I'm a fan of her, honestly. But I learned a lot about her today when I was doing some research for this podcast episode. And she's another artist that it seems that it alludes to on that blind take that I was talking about earlier. And I mean, she got scouted from a musical that Liz Gillies, who was also on Victorious with her, Liz Gillies also got scouted from the same musical called 13, and they got scouted by Dan Schneider, and Dan Schneider had them be on Victorious. Anyways, so I guess Ariana Grande got close with Dan Schneider, and it kind of alludes to the fact that, you know, that's why Kat Valentine, I guess we're just going to start talking about Victorious now, why Kat Valentine got, like, such shine on that show. Like, she wasn't even... Jade, who was Liz Gillies' character, and Kat Valentine, Ariana Grande's character, were not the main characters of the show. The show was literally called Victorious. Tori, who was Victoria Justice, was supposed to be the main character, but because she said she wouldn't sleep with Dan Schneider, she got pushed out. And Liz Gillies was fucking around with the dude that wrote all the songs for Victorious, and that dude is 20 years her senior. That's absolutely foul. Gross. His pee-pee's probably shriveled up. That's gross. And she's married to him now. So there's that. I just feel like it would make a lot of sense for that to be true. Because, like, look at Ariana Grande's career now. Like, if she didn't mind having to sleep with people to make her way to the top, like, that would make so much sense. Because look at her. Homegirl's winning. You know? And, like, she also could have been one of those people that took some of the hush money, you know, that Jeanette McCurdy was offered. Because I wouldn't doubt it if, after Jeanette McCurdy was done filming Sam and Cat, if they also offered Ariana Grande the same money that they offered Jeanette. Because I don't really think that Ariana Grande did anything on Nick after Sam and Cat either. I think she just, like, really fully went into her music career. Or maybe she just was already planning on not saying anything because of the fame that she was achieving. I'm not really sure. But it kind of adds up, and it's kind of creepy to think about it that way. But it makes sense, because why would two characters that were not the main character be pushed so forward to the front, you know? And, like, if Ariana was out here doing a little whatever with Dan, and Liz Gillies is over here fucking the dude who writes the songs, like, it makes sense. Like, God, that's just so gross. And apparently, there was a lot of tomfoolery on the set of Victorious. There was lots of people doing drugs, drinking alcohol, lots of underage, inappropriate sexual things going on. So much so that Nickelodeon really wanted to cancel the show because there was, like, so many things popping up from all the people that were a part of the show. There's so many allegations and things that they were having to cover up and hide and sweep under the rug that was just, like, too much for the network. And so they wanted to get it shut down. And so they kind of just ended up pulling the plug on Victorious because they were too scared that something was going to happen that they were going to have to cover up. Such as transitioning into Zoe 101. When Jamie Lynn Spears, who played Zoe, Britney Spears' little sister, might I add, crazy family, love Britney. I'm not saying she's crazy, I'm saying that Britney's family is crazy. They kicked her off the show because she got pregnant. Tell me why. I really believe that conspiracy that Dan Schneider is the baby daddy of Jamie Lynn Spears' baby. Because, like, that just really checks out, I feel like. For that to be the only reason for the show to get canceled, and, like, Dan Schneider was creepy and weird, and Jamie Lynn Spears is, like, a known manipulator and liar, and I wouldn't doubt that she was out here hoeing herself out to Dan so she could climb on the social ladder, because she always was in competition with her sister. And Jamie Lynn Spears' daughter low-key looks just like Dan. Doesn't look anything like the guy that she was dating at that time that they claimed was the father. And maybe that's why Jamie Lynn Spears is so fucked up now. She looks like a crusty fucking potato with a big-ass chin. She looks like a crusty potato when the Crimson Chin from Fairly Odd Parents had a baby. Pooped her ass out. Bitch is ugly. Anyways, so, you know, going over all of these shows and reviewing them, it really, like, hurts inside, because this was, like, a really large part of my childhood, but I'm sure a lot of other people's childhoods as well. And, like, it's heartbreaking to know that, like, the people that we idolized and watched on television that entertained us and made us laugh and cheered us up when we had a bad day at school, something that we looked forward to watching when we came home, that all of those actors and actresses were suffering because of this one man and the team that he assembled to be there. It is absolutely revolting to me that if you are charged with sexual assault against children, you are not kept off of a child show set. That is revolting. If you have allegations like that, you should not be able to work in Hollywood or anywhere. But especially not on set of a child's TV show full of child actors and actresses. That is not fair. You are setting these kids up to fail. You are setting them up to have their lives ruined. And then what is the world going to do? Turn around and blame them. Look at Lindsay Lohan. Who knows what happened to her? There could be I'm sure there is. I know there is many different other Dan Schneider types out there. We just don't know their names yet. Or maybe we do and we choose to ignore it. Maybe we're moving into the era where we choose to not ignore things that matter now. Maybe we're moving into the era where we actually have solutions for the problems that these people are causing. Maybe we can believe people when they come forward. Maybe if, you know, like, when people speak out and they say something, almost always, if it's a woman, they are called a liar. Or, you know, at the same regard, it's hard for people to want to believe Drake Bell's story because of his own allegations that he's fighting against when it comes to the thing he did with the underage girl. I'm not trying to say that that's not true. I'm not trying to diminish it just because he had trauma when he was younger. It doesn't make it okay for you to do shitty things because someone did shitty things to you. It doesn't make it okay for you to hurt somebody because someone else hurt you. But a lot of the times when someone has hurt a young kid, they don't heal from it if they don't ever get out of that environment. And for the case for a lot of these child actresses, Amanda Bynes is a really good example. She never got to escape. Britney Spears, she never got to escape. So what do you think that's going to do to someone's mental, like, stability? Obviously they're going to lose their shit. You know, look at Miley Cyrus. I'm glad that she didn't turn out, like, really bad and continue to go down a really bad path. I mean, her Bangers era wasn't a bad path, but you could tell that she was really lost. You could tell that she was really suffering and really hurting. I mean, you don't, like, make a whole complete genre switch up in the middle of your career after you break up with your husband and everything and just be like, I'm good. Like, bro, I went and saw her live. She was sliding out of it. She slid down a tongue slide that was like a big thing of her face. She came down from the sky riding a hot dog. Okay? Like, that shit's not normal. I mean, yes, it's creative. And yes, if Lady Gaga did it, or, you know, Beyonce, nobody would be questioning it or trying to imply that it has to do with mental illness. But it does. Look what the media tried to do to Lady Gaga when she came out too. They tried to insinuate that she, like, possessed some girl's body and stole her dream or some shit. They tried to At the time when being transgender was like really negative in the media, I still believe that they're working on that. It is still viewed negatively, but it's getting not too much better, but like a tiny bit, like a micro percentage. They tried to insinuate that she was transgender and like, you know, zooming in on her crotch in like music videos and stuff, and they just were doing anything they could to tear her down because they saw how much of a spark she had. And I think that that's kind of, you could say that for most of the artists that got really, really messed up. Amanda Bynes had a huge spark, bro. She was incredibly talented. Incredibly talented. So funny. So funny. Lindsay Lohan, amazing actress. Super talented. They tore her down. Miley Cyrus, incredibly talented. They attempted to tear her down too. Demi Lovato, like the list goes on and on and on and on. It's almost always the tabloids, TMZ, and the media that are affecting these people because that's their general public. For us, when we go outside and walk down the street and the people that see us in that one moment and that one time, that's our general public. Imagine going outside and every single person that sees you knows who you are before you even know anything about them. Imagine that. Also, sorry for the city noises. I live in downtown. But just imagine that. Just put yourself into their shoes just for like a moment and imagine leaving the house, and as soon as you walk out the front door, you're swarmed with flashes, bright flashes from cameras and people trying to ask you questions about who you're dating or, you know, what drugs you're doing or, you know, just all in your face. Imagine never getting a moment of peace. Imagine being at home and wanting to relax, but you can't because your mom is forcing you to read a script for the next movie that you're doing. Like, we don't even know what any of that's like us, like, normal, quote-unquote, normal people. We don't know what that's like. We don't know how far these people are pushed before they break. Now, think about all that stuff, and then add in the fact that these people are at high risk for being sexually assaulted. They're at high risk for drug abuse, for self-harm, for all these things, because they are so put in the spotlight. And I really feel like when that happens, it amplifies it almost, like more so than it would someone who's not famous. I really genuinely feel like if you are assaulted and you're famous, it's amplified as far as how you feel, because everybody knows. Like, that just feels like that would be so embarrassing for everybody to know something so vulnerable and personable about you in specific. Like, that's all anybody's ever going to talk to you about or ask you about. Like, I guarantee you, whenever Jeanette McCurdy goes around, all the people ever ask her about is what she's written about in her book so far. I bet you she's constantly been getting swarmed about Dan Schneider and all this stuff even before this docuseries came out. I know she has for a fact. Because the media only wants to push what's negative and what's going to sell. And we live in a society where we absorb negativity so much quicker and easier than we absorb positivity. Because when we have something positive, nobody cares. Nobody cares that Akon paid for, like, the electricity to be put up in an entire town in Africa so that this specific town can have electricity and lights and everything. Nobody cares about that. But they sure care about Miss Miley Cyrus over here on a wrecking ball, or like her shaking her non-existent butt at the VMAs. Because that's easier to digest. It keeps us coming back because we want to know more. When it's a positive story, it normally has a beginning and an end. When it's a negative story, it's normally something that's developing that can have something added onto it, so I feel like we latch onto it a little bit easier. I really feel like things need to change as far as like Hollywood and Nickelodeon goes, but I don't know if it ever will, because it's not up to us. We can never boycott TV. There's too many people in the world that absorb that. There's no way that we would be able to stop that. And if we did, would it even be able to make a difference? Because those same rich motherfuckers that are running it now, they got manpower at the wazoo. And how are we gonna be able to stop them? You know, when people want to, like, say, like, oh, it's the Illuminati or whatever, you know, like, maybe there's something into that. Maybe that shit is real. I don't know. Every day that I hear all this stuff, you know, like, the NFL is a really good example, too, for me, personally. Like, I grew up watching football my whole life with my dad, you know, big Seattle Seahawks fan. It runs in my blood. Went to, like, almost every home game growing up with my father. It was something that him and I really bonded over, you know, because it was something that he always really loved, and he bonded with that over his dad, and so him and I did the same. I thought my whole life, up until recently, that the NFL was, like, normal. You know, it was just, like, teams, like, playing against each other, and, like, whoever was the better team would win. But now, I don't believe that shit at all. I genuinely believe that it is scripted, and that the teams that are supposed to win and the franchises that are supposed to be big are. Like, look at what's going on now. Like, I don't know if any of you guys watched the most recent Super Bowl with the 49ers and the Chiefs, but me and my boyfriend were watching it, and we called almost everything that happened before it happened, because it fits the script. Like, as an example, you know, like, Taylor Swift won a Grammy for Album of the Year. Who's her boyfriend? Travis Kelce. It would make sense that he would win the Super Bowl, right? Because he's dating Taylor Swift, and she is the second biggest artist in the world, behind The Weeknd. Shout out The Weeknd. So, like, that makes sense, right? And just when the 49ers seemed like they were going to win the Super Bowl, they started doing bad, and players started getting injured, and it was off plays that, like, didn't really look like it would actually injure them. It just seemed all too perfect in the timing-wise. Like, just when the 49ers were getting to a point where they were going to be able to win, the Chiefs started coming back. And yes, I understand that that is a normal thing that could happen, but the way that it happened just seems so calculated. And that makes me wonder how much of this media that we consume is calculated. Maybe everything is calculated. It has to be, right? And when you think about it like that, it's a little wee-woo, mind-opening, mind-blown. But, I mean, hey, we would never know, right? Okay, so that concludes episode 1 of Gem Talk with me, Amthyst. I want to thank you for tuning in, and I hope that we see you next week for episode 2. Bye!